We all know the old rhyme: divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. It's a neat little mnemonic, but it sanitizes one of history's most brutal and tragic soap operas. The story of Henry VIII and his 6 wives is not just about a king's quest for a male heir. It's a chilling tale of political machinations, ruthless ambition, false accusations, and the terrifying reality of being married to an absolute monarch who believed he was chosen by God. Let's pull back the curtain on the rhyme and explore the dark, complex truths behind the fates of these 6 women. Each of their stories is a testament to the precarious nature of power and the high price of proximity to a tyrant. Our story begins not with a grand romance, but with a political alliance. Catherine of Aragon, a Spanish princess, was first married to Henry's older brother, Arthur. When Arthur died, Catherine was left in a diplomatic limbo for years, a pawn in the games of kings. Eventually, the young and dashing Henry VIII ascended the throne and, against the counsel of some, chose to marry his brother's widow. For over 2 decades, they were, by many accounts, a devoted couple. Catherine was a respected queen, intelligent, pious, and a capable regent who even saw England to victory against the Scots while Henry was away. But she failed in one critical duty: providing a male heir. She suffered multiple miscarriages and stillbirths, and only one child, a daughter named Mary, survived infancy. This wasn't just a personal tragedy. In a kingdom where the succession was everything, it was a political crisis. As Henry grew older and more desperate for a son to secure the Tudor dynasty, his eyes and affections wandered. He became infatuated with a lady-in-waiting, a woman with captivating dark eyes and a will of iron, Anne Boleyn. This is where divorce becomes a gross oversimplification. Henry sought an annulment, not a divorce, arguing his marriage to Catherine was invalid in the eyes of God because she had been his brother's wife. He cited a passage from the book of Leviticus to support his claim, convinced his lack of a son was a divine punishment. The Pope, under pressure from Catherine's powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, refused to grant the annulment. Catherine, for her part, fought with incredible courage and dignity. She insisted her first marriage was never consummated and that her union with Henry was true and valid. What followed was not a simple legal proceeding, but a cataclysm. Frustrated and determined, Henry broke with the Roman Catholic Church, declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England, and had his own archbishop grant the annulment. This single act, driven by his desire for an heir, reshaped the course of English history forever. Catherine of Aragon was cast aside, stripped of her title as queen, and separated from her daughter, Mary. She was moved from one dilapidated castle to another, effectively living under house arrest. Despite the immense pressure and isolation, she never accepted the annulment and signed her letters Catherine, the Queen until her death. With Catherine out of the way, Henry was free to marry the woman who had promised him a son. Anne Boleyn was crowned queen in a lavish ceremony, already pregnant with what Henry was sure would be his long-awaited heir. But the child was a girl, Elizabeth. It was a bitter disappointment. Anne's position, which had always been precarious, became even more so. She was not the submissive wife Catherine had been. She was intelligent, outspoken, and politically astute, with a fiery temper that often clashed with the king's. She had powerful enemies at court, men who resented her influence and her reformist religious views. When a second pregnancy ended in a miscarriage of a male child, the clock began to tick for Anne. Henry, ever superstitious, started to believe that this marriage, too, was cursed. His eye had already been caught by another, a quiet and gentle lady-in-waiting named Jane Seymour. The king's chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, saw an opportunity to remove the troublesome queen and realign court politics. The trap was set. The word beheaded is clinically brutal, but the process that led to it was a masterpiece of legal terror. Anne was arrested on shocking charges of adultery with multiple men, including her own brother, George Boleyn. The accusations were almost certainly fabricated, a convenient fiction to justify her removal. The men accused alongside her were tortured until they confessed, though most maintained their innocence to the end. Anne was subjected to a show trial, presided over by her own uncle, the Duke of Norfolk. The verdict was a foregone conclusion. She was found guilty of treason and sentenced to death. In a final, twisted act of mercy, Henry spared her the axe and brought in an expert swordsman from France for a cleaner execution. Anne Boleyn, the woman who had changed the face of England, walked to the scaffold with remarkable composure, maintaining her innocence but cleverly avoiding any direct criticism of the king. Just 11 days after Anne's execution, Henry VIII married Jane Seymour. She was everything and was not, meek, gentle, and seemingly apolitical. Her motto was bound to obey and serve. Jane succeeded where her two predecessors had failed. In October 1537, she gave birth to a son, the future King Edward VI. Henry was ecstatic, the kingdom celebrated. The Tudor dynasty was finally secure. But the triumph was tragically short-lived. Jane developed complications from the birth and died just 12 days later. The word died in the rhyme is accurate, but it hides the profound impact of her death on Henry. He was genuinely devastated. He wore black for months and, of all his wives, Jane was the only one he chose to be buried with. He had finally gotten his son, but at the cost of the wife he seems to have truly cherished as his ideal queen. For 2 years, Henry remained a widower, mourning Jane and focusing on his newfound fatherhood. But the needs of the state once again took precedence. Thomas Cromwell, the architect of Anne Boleyn's fall, urged the king to make another strategic marriage, this time to a German princess, Anne of Cleves. The match was designed to forge a political alliance with the Protestant princes of Germany against the Catholic powers of France and the Holy Roman Empire. The problem was, Henry had never met his bride. He relied on a flattering portrait painted by Hans Holbein the Younger. When Anne of Cleves arrived in England, the reality did not match the painting. Henry was immediately and viscerally repulsed. He famously complained to Cromwell, "I like her not." The political alliance the marriage was meant to secure also fell apart before it could even begin. The marriage was a disaster from the start and was never consummated. Henry was trapped, and he blamed Cromwell for the fiasco. This time, divorced is closer to the truth, though again, it was an annulment. Fortunately for this Anne, she was pragmatic and intelligent. Recognizing the mortal danger she was in, she did not fight the king. She readily agreed to the annulment, claiming the marriage was unconsummated and testifying that Henry's prior contract to another woman invalidated their union. Her cooperation saved her life and earned her a generous settlement. She was given the honorary title of King's beloved sister, granted several properties, and lived out her days in comfortable, wealthy independence in England. She even maintained a friendly relationship with the king and his children, outliving Henry and all his other wives. Her story is a rare example of survival through clever compliance. With the Cleves marriage annulled, the path was clear for Henry to marry his fifth wife, a young and vivacious teenager named Catherine Howard. She was a niece of the powerful Duke of Norfolk and a cousin of Anne Boleyn, but she was nothing like her infamous relative. Catherine was barely out of her teens, ill-educated, and completely unprepared for the role of queen. The aging, obese, and increasingly infirm Henry was utterly infatuated with her, calling her his rose without a thorn. She brought a spark of youth back into his life, and for a brief time, he was happy. But Catherine had a past. Before coming to court, she had been involved in romantic dalliances. And once at court, surrounded by young, handsome courtiers, she was careless. She began a reckless affair with a gentleman of the king's privy chamber, Thomas Culpeper. When rumors of her premarital history and her current infidelity reached the ears of the king's council, an investigation was launched. The evidence was undeniable. Letters were found, and confessions were extracted under pressure. Henry's adoration turned to furious betrayal. The rose without a thorn was now a source of public humiliation. The charge was treason. Beheaded was again the outcome. Catherine Howard's execution was a squalid, pathetic affair. She was just a girl, perhaps no older than 19, caught in a world she did not understand and paying the ultimate price for her youthful indiscretions. Her final words on the scaffold were reportedly a confession of her guilt, a stark contrast to the dignified defiance of her cousin, Anne Boleyn. After the Catherine Howard debacle, Henry seemed to be done with marriage. He was now old, morbidly overweight, and in constant pain from a leg ulcer. But he needed a companion and a nurse. He found one in Catherine Parr. Catherine Parr was a mature, twice-widowed woman in her early 30s. She was intelligent, pious, and kind, and she took on the role of queen not as a lover, but as a caring consort and stepmother. She helped reconcile Henry with his two daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, and was instrumental in having them restored to the line of succession. But her position was not without peril. Catherine was a sincere Protestant reformer, and her religious views attracted the suspicion of conservative factions at court. They plotted against her, convincing the king that she was a heretic. An arrest warrant was drawn up. In a moment of supreme danger, Catherine learned of the plot. Instead of panicking, she went to the king and, with masterful humility, explained that she only debated religion with him to learn from his great wisdom and to distract him from the pain of his ailments. Her gambit worked. Flattered and charmed, Henry forgave her. When the guards arrived the next day to arrest the queen, the king flew into a rage and sent them away. Catherine had survived. She outlived the tyrannical king, who died in 1547. The rhyme's final word, survived, is fitting. Catherine Parr not only survived Henry but also went on to marry for a fourth time, for love. Her story is one of intelligence, careful navigation, and incredible luck. The 6 wives of Henry VIII were not just a sequence of women defined by a nursery rhyme. They were individuals, a devout princess, a brilliant game-changer, a gentle peacemaker, a pragmatic survivor, a foolish girl, and a caring companion. Their lives show us the brutal reality of a Tudor court where a woman's worth was measured by her fertility and her survival depended on the whims of an all-powerful king. Their stories are a powerful reminder of the human cost of dynastic ambition and absolute power. I hope you found this exploration into the lives of Henry's wives interesting. For more dives into the hidden corners of the past, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Historical Repo.